Good. Jumbo. Jina langu Jeremy Mieli. My name is Jeremy Mieli. But you can call me Jay. Originally I'm from the Congo, and I moved here 16 years ago. And the way I moved here is it's completely different from a lot of people. It's rarely talked about, but there's like often every year there's like a visa game, like a lottery for the visa to win. That is often played in African countries, mainly countries with a lot of poverty, and the chances of winning are like 1 out of 1,000, I would say. And my family was that 1 out of 1,000 lucky family to win. Well, I would say my mom was. She's a lucky woman. I would say it was a long journey coming here. It wasn't just like you win and you get here. It was kind of like you win, you get the ticket, and then they tell you figure your own way to America. Yeah, and my parents were really hard workers. They did their things. They worked hard, got enough money, and got my family over here. Boston first, and then we made our way to Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, 802. And that's where I live right now, currently. And I'd have to say I've been pretty blessed living in Vermont up until I got a little taste of the bottom of society, and how people with my color, regardless of where you're from, are treated in America. But I'll get back to that. Let me tell you about my experience in the Congo, how I was growing up there. See, I was raised a strict Roman Catholic, but my parents converted, I guess, to Roman Catholicism. But I would say I'm the third generation out of the tribal societal way of living that existed before the colonial ages. A lot of which caused a lot of people to flee the villages and go to like the big cities and be educated in French, which was the colonist language. And to be educated in French meant that you were a higher person in my society, because that was the colonial language at the time. But I don't mind speaking French. I think it's a beautiful language, and it opens doors for sure. Hey, miko napiga muziki. Hii ni muziki ya jina iko Munjanja man, Munjanja. And back home, in Kinshasa, this man, the Munjanja man, miko na mémoire mingi ya Munjanja man. Il était vraiment quelqu'un très gentil, et son boulot, his job était de se réveiller chaque matin. He would wake up every morning and he would beat his drums, and it normally went to this rhythm. See, every African kids who grew up in the 90s in Africa will know this rhythm, because he would walk around the neighborhood, the community, and play this drum really loud and wake the whole neighborhood up. And that rhythm would never leave my head. And that's how we woke up in the community. It was like a community system where a good neighbor, everyone was a good neighbor. It was like a family, a big family. You know, iko kitu mzuri vraiment. Uko pembeni ya famille, uko pembeni ya ndugu yangu, you know, uko ensemble, uko na, you know, pendanisha, uko nafanya mzuri, and uko na aide, and you're helping your community, and you're all making sure you're thriving together. And that's how I grew up in the Congo. And to be honest, coming here made me kind of realize how there's a lot of kids here, especially, you know, kids my skin color, who tend to grow up here, and I've noticed a lot of them have been stripped from their culture and are not aware of the true African culture and root on what it means to be a child. And that goes to a lot of cultures, you know, like mainly the American culture, on how they portray on how it means to be a child, because especially nowadays, a lot of kids are, you know, in the house, locked in the rooms, you know, plus in your room doing homework, going to school. But the way I grew up is, you know, we had to go outside and create our own toys, you know, whether it's music instruments, whether it's firing arms, you know, you can create, you know, we used to create guns from bamboo sticks and sugar canes, and that shot like little pellets, like little, you know, sticks. Or we used to use, how do you call it, like the floss sticks, like the tooth floss, to like put in there and like use it to hunt with. Birds mainly. We used to make flutes out of banana stems, you know, like as a kid. We used to create like makeshift houses, like the gingerbread home, out of sticks that we find in the yard. And I don't know, like how many people here knows how to tell time with just a stick in the sunlight and your shadow? You just gotta look at where the shadow points when the sun faces the stick. And that's, to be honest, that's a really good trick to learn, because nowadays we're so inclined in trusting the time that we don't have any other way of knowing what time it is. Yeah, and that was my upbringing, very strict upbringing. So when I moved here to Vermont, my parents were very strict. It was like a strict upbringing, but I was mostly into music. That was my thing, music. And to be honest, what traumatized me the most is just the living situations of a lot of immigrants or migrants, or just people in poverty, where not many people have a front yard or a backyard. And vraiment, iko kitu vraiment pas bien, because how are kids able to thrive, have that childhood upbringing where they're one with nature and outside instead of inside throughout the whole childhood. And I could never understand that growing up here. And also, I also noticed, like, going to church. Church is also an amazing topic, because going to church in the Congo was very interesting, because it was kind of like you were going to a party. Everyone was like dressed up to dance. Everyone was dancing. There was always dancing around the pastor. The pastor was like the entertainer, and everyone looked forward to it. Now, coming to church in America really confused me a little bit because of my strict upbringing in Roman Catholicism. Just because of how quiet it is and how parents have to force their kids to go. When I grew up, kids wanted to go because it was fun. And we really felt the connection of the community in that environment. There's a lot of other things. Especially things like being scared to leave your house. Not because of wild animals outside, not because of rebels outside, not because of the harsh environmental conditions, which I'm used to, but because of the people who are sworn to protect you. And now let me tell you about how I experienced how that was the biggest trauma in my life, because I'm currently right now taking I've never, because in my country there's a saying called Hakuna Matata in Swahili. And Hakuna Matata, I'm sure a lot of people have heard it in The Lion King. It means no worry. Timon and Pumbaa sang it pretty well. And that's how I grew up. And then, like, coming here, I grew up the same way, until all of a sudden I became vulnerable. Vulnerable in a way where people who are supposed to protect you in this country are the ones who are causing you to be hurt, causing you to not want to be in this country, causing you to run away from the many opportunities that we have in this country. And it's really tough how a certain color can be kept from those many opportunities that everyone should have, that is available in this country. And that's pretty tough, because we came here for those opportunities that we see. A lot of times growing up in the Congo, America is like heaven, we see it on TV. Growing up, mie na nduku yangu de temps en temps tutaangalia television, tutaona America, and tutaona neige, snow. It looks beautiful. And when we came here, it was amazing. It was like we were in a dream. But the life isn't really as pretty as they make it seem in media. Because you come here, whatever education you have outside does not count. You're uneducated. So my parents were really big people in the Congo. They weren't just housekeeping workers. My mom was CEO of a big bank. My dad was a top teacher of a top university in the Congo. He also got his degree in nuclear engineer in Russia, St. Petersburg. But he comes here, he has to start from zero, housekeeping. Why? Just English. They don't know how to speak English. But not knowing how to speak English shouldn't be able to decide if you're smart or not, or uneducated or not. Yeah, and that was really tough because we saw our parents who were big people in our country, in our eyes, people we look up to, and they come here, they can barely take care of themselves. How can that possibly motivate their kids? So who's left to look up to? Someone who's struggling. And that's tough. So that means like you're left to make a name for yourself as a first generation African in America. And not a lot of people can say that. Because many Africans came here a long time ago. And I'm thankful to say that I'm the first generation from 2004, when things were slightly better than then. We decided to come here because of the good things that we saw of America. But coming here, you learn about the bad things. That's all you see on the news, it seems like. That's tough. And now look at me. I'm the same person, trying to chase greatness. Trying to make my parents proud, trying to make up for the people that they were, now diminished. Trying to make a name for myself in the name of my parents, who were minimized and pretty much insulted by this country, by calling them uneducated. Just like the lowest people in society, and that can ruin someone's fire. Like fire, by fire I mean it can ruin someone's motivation, drive. And I feel like the American society or the American government is built upon suppressing 90% of the people just for a controlled power, and keeping everyone down and not caring about their dreams, their goals, and how they have to put food on the table of their kids in their kitchen. And growing up and seeing that really motivated me to never fail. And that can be stressful to a lot of people. I feel like the drive in me, I feel like might seem different from the drive in someone, I would say an African American perhaps, because we come here from something greater. Not everyone who comes from Africa is an immigrant or had a bad life or been a child soldier. I had a great life in my country, great life. But then you come here and then you see your family kind of get deteriorated because just the culture of family doesn't really exist here. Because your parents are always working 9 to 5. Even double shift, the connection between parent and kids doesn't really exist too much. Coming to America, I don't remember the last time we all sat down on a table and had dinner together. Everyone is in their own program. Everyone has their own stress, too much stress. And to be honest, I can't recall a time I ever had stress in the Congo, To be able to communicate with our friends, I don't know if anyone notices or remember this time, we had to go to cyber cafes, just to send an email or communicate with a friend or play some computer games that so many people nowadays have so much access to. And I still remember those days very vividly. Whether it's from the rebellion and the countless missiles and bullets I've seen fly above my house in the Congo, I still had a good life compared to the struggle that I had to see and withstand here in America. But I'd have to say, the best diamond is the one that withstand the most pressure. And Africans coming here nowadays, like I would say, the new diaspora of Africans coming into America, not forced, either by lottery or by refugee, they come here with a lot of stress. Because they come here with stress because they come here and their parents are minimized, and the parents leave it up to them to make it happen, because a lot of us are the first generation of us. So we don't have too much, we don't have time, we don't have history, we don't have knowledge of this place. We just come to try to make it happen. And it's tough, it's very stressful. And now here I am, I'm dealing with a brain injury. All happened from police brutality. And to be honest, things happen for a reason. Kitu gani mie minafanya, mie sinafanya kitu, mie sinafanya kitu, sina déranger police, sina déranger my brothers, sina déranger ndugu yangu, sina déranger neighbor yangu. But I guess trouble comes to you when you're here, because just stereotypes and profiling, and it's unfortunate trouble came to me because I really did my best to be the best person. But everything happens for a reason, because I did the best out of it. Now with the knowledge that I have in terms of how to deal with trauma in this country as a black man, and how to deal with health, and how to deal with making yourself a person, having a voice in this country, you know, comes a lot with the people you surround yourself with, and education, learning about your country first, learning about your continent, and then learning about your environment, and then try to make something out of it, you know, and help your people in return, and along the way build a team of people who are willing to get your message and your visions out there. That's called the fiddle, the finger fiddle. I actually learned it in the Congo. I had to do it was actually a Christmas ceremony that we had to do for a school. I went to like a Jesuit school there, very strict school. Oh my gosh, like and a lot of things is too, like a lot of Africans coming here to America were very disciplined. Just the way the school, to be honest, school in the Congo for me was harder than school here by far, because I feel like school here in America, especially in like the ghettos and public schools, or to be honest, they tend to minimize versus versus giving kids that push to propel themselves outside the box and become something greater. And in the Congo, you had the discipline. Like, kids would get literally your parents had no say on how the teacher handled the business. The teacher was pretty much your parent when you come to school. If you don't do your work, you don't do your homework, they have the right to discipline you. Whether it's hitting you, whether it's, anything. They can whip you, they can, like anything. Because like your teachers in the Congo were seen as your parent outside of the house. Kind of like your mentor, you were like their student. And they had the right to discipline you. And I grew up a life of discipline. Like, we were disciplined at a very young age, where everything had a consequence. And a lot of times, my grandma, I have like different memories. I have weird memories of my grandparents. A lot of people might not have the same memories of their grandparents. But my grandpa from my dad's side, which was the Luba tribe, they were from the Luba tribe in the Congo, and they mostly spoke Chiluba. My dad's grandpa was a shaman. He was the king actually of the tribe, where my dad is from. And as a kid, I asked my dad, how was our grandpa? Like what happened to him? How did he die? And he told me a story that one day he went into the forest to have a conference with the spirits, and he never came back out. He disappeared. He vanished, and he had to go make a pact. He kind of went to, because he was a healer, he kind of went, and my dad used to tell me he went there, he sacrificed himself for the betterment of his tribe. And that was a really powerful story. And like, to be honest, it kind of made me feel like he was never dead. Like he ascended, like Mary did in the Bible, I would say, because he never came out of the forest. And I asked a lot of stories about my grandpa, actually my mom's dad, he was a healer. He was a doctor. He was a healer of the. Well, my mom is from the Nande tribe, which is a different tribe than the Luba tribe. And during that time, it was very weird to have two people from different tribes marry each other. But knowing who I am, like someone who drifts away from the norm, I'm sure my parents were the same. And they ended up getting married. And normally kids who are born from different parents who have different tribes were called mixed in the Congo, even though we're not. Like mixed, like someone might think someone's mixed here in America, someone's light-skinned. Yeah, we people who are born from two different parents from two different tribes are mixed in the Congo. And to me, that was a really blessing for me, because we incorporated different things from different tribes. Whether it's from the tough, bold, passionate warrior spirit from the Luba tribe, Luba nation, or the endurance, stamina-full, and durability of the Nanda tribe. They call them the stout people because they're short and stout, but they have a lot of strength in them. And I'm really blessed to come from those backgrounds. And to be honest, growing up, my grandma from my mom's side, no, from my dad's side, excuse me, used to gather all of us around, because I have a lot of brothers. There's 6 of us, 5 boys, 1 girl, and it's a blessing, of course, to have that many boys in one family. And our grandma used to gather us around. This is all the few memories I have of her. She would tell us, gather around, we would have a fire such as this, And this was her way. This was the elders' way of disciplining the young ones, you know, as you call them, Padawans in Star Wars. The young ones were disciplined by tales and stories of past experiences that hunts the jungle, or that saves the jungle. You know, we tell a lot of myths of demons and goddesses, but all these demons and goddesses have a story behind them. Like my grandma used to tell stories of the mermaid who would reach her hands out of the river, out of the lake, and grab kids by their heels and suck them into the water. We were told to always stay away from the water because to avoid the mermaids. And this whole story normally originated from the amount of drowning that happened in my dad's tribe. A lot of kids died in drowning from the river and the lakes. So the story was kind of like created to keep the kids away from the water and have them respect the spirit, because the water became an evil spirit that is meant to not be feared but respected. And I'm sure there's, like, coming to America, I learned that there's this stereotype of, you know, like, black people can't swim. And I thought that was pretty funny because in my country, a lot of us can't swim, and mainly it's because of these kinds of stories that are propelled to keep us away from water, bodies of water. And another story was also hollering at night. My grandma would have us gather. She would be like, you know, it is safe to keep quiet at night because there's a spirit, you know. There's a spirit. The spirit had this form, had the shape of a kangaroo. And it is said that the spirit would steal children's voice, or anyone's voice who would be too loud at night. And the next day you'd wake up with a vanished voice. And this was to kind of like keep the kids away from being too loud and disturbing the peace at night, and also just kind of calm down, like calm the spirit when the night comes to get ready to go to bed and simmer down, kind of. And to be honest, like, all these folk stories always had a message behind it, to discipline us in a way. It was kind of like a fear tactic, you know, a fear tactic, but in a good way, where we were taught to respect rather than fear. And it was a kind of respect where you leave these spiritual, magical things like a river or a lake or the forest alone and out of harm from human pollution that you see a lot here. And coming here to America, learning about the past of this land and about the natives who roamed this land previous to the colonists, and they had the same concept that I grew up with. You know, the concept of growing up in nature and respecting nature as a deity, as a being that is very much alive, and if messed with, can take children or even life or even a whole village. And we were taught that in a young age, and they taught that to their youngins too in their folklores and stories, to respect the nature. And I feel like that concept of teaching to any youth, I feel like would benefit us well moving forward with everything. All right, back at it. Let me talk more about my childhood growing up and like the type of stuff me and my brothers would do, you know. Kitu mie na ndugu yangu, tutafanya siku moja tunakula l'argent à transport. Tunakula l'argent à transport. We bought. On a acheté les sambusa parce qu'on avait faim, On avait faim après l'école. So after school, we were really hungry. So me and my brothers, my dad, like our parents gave us, normally they give us like transport money, like to figure out a way home after school. And we would figure out a way to school too. And school would be like 2 hours away. And kids, like all of us were like young, 7, 4, 3, 5 years old. We have to go to the marché, get on a taxi, go to school, and then come back on our own. But a lot of times, it's bizarre. So me and my brothers, moi et mes frères, de temps en temps, on prenait l'argent du transport. So we would get the transportation money, we spend it on food. We eat food after school, and then we decide to walk 2 miles back home. And to be honest, that journey was kind of traumatizing to me as a kid because I was 4 years old, very young. And moi et mes frères, on faisait des choses vraiment très bizarres. We did a lot of bizarre things. Like going back, there was not like a specific way back. We would go over bridges, crocodiles under. We would go through like dense jungles. We would walk through sketchy areas just to get home because we were hungry after school. And to be honest, like all these things built me. Like it made me who I am today. And it's funny, my dad, a few years back, dada yangu anarudia Congo, et anasema the same road, la même route là, la même route que nous on marchait, we used to go over the bridge, the same trail tracks. Now it's a bridge, like it's just crazy how things change and which direction my country is going towards and which direction Africa is going towards. And to be honest, I call that there's a term for it, globalization. Globalization is taking its toll on Africa as a whole right now in today's time, because now I'm hearing different stories of the things that I used to do there are changing here and there, because things like YouTube, now English is popularly taught in classes in a lot of African countries because English is kind of like practiced. It's trying to be like the global language. Now there's bridges built, like my country is coming a long way. It's a city now. But I fear that my people, the influence that so many people who were stripped from the land and brought here, the kind of life that they were kind of like upbrought, and the kind of society that kind of was built upon stripping them from their culture. I feel like it's playing like a big toll in my country today. And if I tell you like things like, as a kid, nowadays it's funny because like I live in Vermont now, and just the things, as a kid you would find so many ways to have fun, like things like playing with ants. So in my backyard in the Congo, and I remember this so vividly. I used to draw a lot too, by the way. I used to chase a lot of cartoons, Dragon Ball Z, specifically. And another way I used to have fun as a kid is me and my brothers would, because there were different kind of ants in my country. There were different kind of, there was red ants, army ants, black ants, there was spiked ants, there was so many ants. And then my brothers and I, we would each choose, choisir. Chacun, un à un, on va choisir quelle fourmi on veut. So each of us would pick which tribe we want as a kid. And then we use those tribes and we pick the strongest soldier. We would put them in a rank and then have them fight. And it was the craziest thing. That's the kind of fun we used to have as a kid. We'd fight ants. We would go find grasshoppers, les sauterelles. And we would go find grasshoppers, fill them up in like a soda bottle, bring it to our moms to cook. That was like kids' activities in the yard. They would send off the kids, go find grasshoppers, sauterelles we called it. And we would go into like this dense banana jungle, and kind of look for grasshoppers and bring it back to the mothers so they can grill it up and cook it for us. And a lot of times that was used as snack. We would eat grasshoppers for snack. And to be honest, like I really miss that. And one day I kind of did that. It was weird. I was like, I was out and about. Had some fun with my friends. This was in Vermont, fast forward. And I found a grasshopper on the road, J'ai trouvé une sauterelle, là. I had some drinks. And I was like, I picked it up and I showed it to my friends. I was like, you can eat this? They're like, no, you can't. And I went to a grill and I grilled it up and I ate it. And it really, it brought me back. And it reminded me of how it was back home. But everyone was so disgusted of it. It's never been seen before. And it's a good source of protein, It's a good source of protein. You add some salt on it. It tastes really good. We used to do stuff like that, And, that's just the kind of entertainment we used to create for ourselves as a kid in the Congo. And we used to just pretend playing like generals, we would have generals. We would use those caps, Coca-Cola bottles caps, from the glass cans, from the glass bottles. We use those caps and use it as stripes. Everyone would have their own stripes. And we would kind of pretend play army. And we also use those, oh my gosh, a lot of African kids who were born in the 90s in Africa would know this. We used to play can soccer, the bottle cap soccer, where we would cut out some jerseys. We would write down the name on it, Gina Payulu, chiffre tutandika hapa, for example, tutandika Ronaldinho, chiffre 9. And then utakata circle, utakata circle. So you're gonna cut a circle that fits the cap. You put it on the cap, and you have 11 caps. And you play soccer, and it's kind of kicking it through your fingers and stuff. That's really hard to explain, but look it out there. It's called bouchon, football de bouchon. So cap soccer, and that's the kind of fun we have. And nowadays, people play soccer on the PS4 here, and that's how we did it back in the days. And I look back to today, and I would still do these things today because they were fun and very authentic. And also, there was one time though, I was really rebel. I was a rebel as a kid growing up in the Congo. And my parents really liked me for that because my dad was a rebel as well. Siku moja ndani ya école, mie professeur ananipiga jua nini mie sijue. Anasema parce que je n'ai pas fait mes devoirs. Because I didn't do my homework. Over there in the Congo, if you don't do your homework, the teacher would hit you. They won't just give you a 0, they're gonna hit you and then give you a 0. And one day the teacher hit me, and you know, I was like very rebellious, you know, like because he didn't really explain the homework well. That's why I didn't do it. So I just stopped doing his homework for the rest of the quarter and stopped showing up to school. Well, my parents would drop me off, but I wouldn't go. And I ended up failing that year in the Congo. But like this teacher, I don't know, I didn't want him to hit me anymore, you know. And my parents were concerned, and they came and like addressed the situation. But there's nothing you can do because the teacher is allowed to hit you. But then it was crazy though. It was really crazy. I don't know how this thing works out. And walai, you know, I don't wish bad upon anyone, but this teacher ended up getting bit by a snake and ended up dying that year, and we had a new teacher and I ended up doing well. But it was weird, you know, it was really weird how things worked out. And if we literally talk about the politics of my country, you know, it's really messed up over there, the situation, but people, we thrive, you know, you try to make the best of your environment and use what you have to still have a childhood. And I feel like people there in my country are more free than, you know, libre. On est plus libre. We're more free than, I would say how 90% of the people who grow up here, you know, especially even people of color, because there is so much stress, created stress that is put upon us here in America that kids growing up in Africa might not have, you know, like things like technology and you know, not knowing how else to communicate with your friends without a phone, completely being oblivious of the outdoors and just like a caveman, you know, like just in the cave. You know, a lot of kids, I feel like, including myself, coming here, the way I grew up there versus where I grew up, it was very culture shock. You know, you come here and like, you're not yourself anymore, you know? And I swear to myself, you know, that I'm gonna do my best to, like I have, you know, to continue towards that path. But it takes time to awaken and figure out these things, because as you grow up, you're only told what to do by your parents until, see, we were growing up, I was under my parents' vision until you break out of that and then you start creating your own vision and you start waking up for yourself. But that doesn't have to be the case, you know. And I decided to wake up so I can wake my parents up too in the situation that they're in, and help things go back to how I was. And I feel like that's how, you know, that's how every kid should take their, you know, should kind of like appreciate it. Coming here, like the diaspora of all Africans from Africa, the diaspora of us leaving and just spreading throughout the globe. We should just remember that, you know, whatever we do is to educate the ones who raised us behind, because of their, oh, the way my mom used to cook for us back in the days. Well, the thing is, we didn't really have like water in the house. Like, you know how people go in the shower, they turn on the shower, water comes out, plenty of water. You can take a shower for 3 hours, water won't stop. Well, we had to go get the water from the well, the sink, and then heat it up. You know, you put it in like charcoal. You heat the water up and you put it in a bucket, and that's how we used to shower. And also the way food was prepared, it was prepared outside. Food was always cooked outside. We had a kitchen, ndani ya nyumba, we had a kitchen, but nothing was cooked because there's no electricity ever, there's no gas, so like, you have a kitchen, but like, it's not accessible. Things were all mostly cooked in charcoal. I'm sure this is still how it goes on today. But you know, charcoal always gives that natural good flavor, you know, cooking with fire. Things like fufu, you know, I grew up off of rice, beans, and chicken. And I'm sure you know, chicken is like a prominent, you know, everyone loves chicken, you know. Rice, beans, and chicken. And in Swahili, you say nyava, kuna nyava. And we actually had like a chicken coop. I saw a beautiful chicken coop here, and we had a chicken coop back in my country. And a lot of times, like everyone was self-sustainable there. Like there's not like, we don't go to grocery stores, we go to marchés, kind of like farmers market. You know, it's a marché. We call it marché. Marché is kind of like a, marché means walk, like a walkway, you know, like of a bunch of vendors. There's a path you walk through, like a farmer's market. And that's how I grew up. And to be honest, I appreciate moving here because everything I've learned here, I'm gonna use it to help my people, help my country get to a better level. And to be honest, and I really wished that a lot of, you know, African Americans, you know, or just people of color who are living here in America can have that kind of purpose, you know. It would kind of it would reduce a lot of stress, you know, once you know what you're here for. And also because once you're placed in a different land that's not yours, or you're forced to be placed there, you tend to lose yourself. You tend to lose a sense of your purpose. And I'm really thankful, you know, that I came here as a first generation, and I still have my purpose and my goals in me, and I know why I'm here for, you know, and I know why I'm here for. And I feel like a lot of times people forget why they're here for it, you know, and we get lost into, not really lost, we just feed into the trap, you know. We'll become trapped and not be able to have a way of expressing why they're here for it. And I'm here to educate myself, educate others, and share my experience. To double life. I've had double life. I would say I've been reborn, because my life here is completely different from my life in the Congo. Way different. And especially a lot of people don't know. At some point, I survived on my own in Cameroon. Cameroon is a country in sub-Saharan Africa, and during my journey to America, me and ndugu yangu Charlie, we traveled on our own. We left there on our own because we kind of like split in couples to be able to come to America. My sister and my mom came here first because you have to protect the ladies, because the ladies are the ones who are most vulnerable in Africa especially. And the men can be left there to survive on their own. And we were there, me and my little brothers. I was 7 years old. My little brother was 5 years old. And we were living on our own in the streets, kind of. In Cameroon, we only had a place to sleep. At night, we had a place to sleep, but in the day, we're outside all day. And it really changed my perspective, you know, until we got that call that my parents worked really hard housekeeping in America. Piganisha, you know, piganisha means like literally they literally worked core and bones in Swahili to get us there. And then we got the news that the visa was paid for, and we came. But for 2 years we were there, me and my little brother. And there's a lot of things I've done, you know. There's sometimes, you know, that's why a lot of times it's not good to criticize and try to put down someone on how they get their food and how they put food in their table, because, you know, everyone is trying to put food in the table, you know, and to me it doesn't matter how they do it, you know. And here and there, like my brother, young kids, we had to like steal here and there from vendors. It's actually pretty funny. I would like, we used to like create this whole skit where my little brother would go and like distract them, and I would run around, take some fruits and run to the back. and like, and it's really crazy. Like I think back, like I had to do all that stuff and just to survive, you know. And like it's really crazy if you get caught over there, you get your arms chopped off, you know. Like and that was a risk. That was a big risk, you know. Quitter très dangereux. And I would never forget where I came from, you know, like, and just seeing where my parents are now, starting from housekeeping. When I came here, we used to live in a shelter, you know. We were in a homeless shelter first. You know, like, many people don't know this about me, because like just the way I present myself, yeah, I've seen the bottom, and then we worked our way up, and then just when I thought that we worked our way up, little did I know that means nothing if you have my skin color. And my brother and I were in Cameroon, and we stayed there for about 2 years. And well, Cameroon is a beautiful landscape. It's like the land of clay. Just the land is red. And Mina, you know, to remember, I think someone told me that there's this myth saying that the land of Cameroon is red because of the amount of blood that was shed in that land. And that was really powerful saying. But since then, my family and I, we really come from a long way. You know, coming here, you know, I was really fortunate to migrate to a place like Vermont because of the kind of people my family is, the kind of you know, we're rebels, you know, we're rebellious, we're like educated Africans, you know, like, and we went to a place that's kind of like low on crime, you know, focus on your education, kept us away from, you know, mingling in the streets and meeting energy and people that might not be good for us, and I'm really thankful for that. But at the end of the day, we were still in America, and regardless of how local and how beautiful and how innocent the people in the area is, the system still was against me and my brothers, and I experienced it that night, 2018 September 8, where me and my brothers were assaulted, and we were reminded that people of my color, we literally have to fight to become someone in this country. It's not just handed to us. And that was a very reassuring thing, you know, reassuring in a way where I know the kind of work I gotta put in to become who I want to be in this country. And Hakuna Matata, you know, I still try to remember that slogan growing up of my country, you know, to not have any worries, because, I mean, like you said yourself, it's human to just know that things will work out, and that's my mindset. And just the kind of personality, how I was raised, an educated young African with a bold, prideful family, I would fight for my right, and right now I'm doing so by letting the people who managed to try to slow down the process and the evolution of my family pay for what they did. And like Martin Luther King said, the only way to win this is by taking it in the courts. And that's exactly what we're doing. Et encore, j'ai envie de remercier tout le monde qui est en train de regarder. Jinangu, Jeremy, Mieli. My middle name is Kizuba, actually. Kizuba is my grandma's name. My dad actually recently gave me this name because in my culture, like as you reach adulthood, you're given a middle name. It's not like when you're born, you're given a middle name. I earned this middle name, and Kizuba is the head of the boat. My last name Mieli means the boat in Swahili, and I would continue to be the guiding force to try to help my family. And yeah, and I go by Jay. You can call me Jay Attik. And I make music as well, and I make everything, you know. I try to keep my culture in my music. My Congolese culture, you know, we're well known for fashion, sapology. You know, a true Congolese will know that, of course. And on music, ndombolo, rumba, and I want to showcase and show you guys some of my music.
Where do we find your music?
And where do I find my music? You can find my music in many places. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Music, SoundCloud. You can find me on YouTube. Just look up Jay space Attik, Attik. And the reason why I came up with that name, my mom calls me Jay for short. The reason why I came up with the name Attik is because I make music in my mom's attic. You know, that's where my studio is, so I call myself Jay Attik. And I also have this, I tend to think I'm an old soul. I'm an old soul. I'm like, I don't know if you've seen Toy Story, you know, the toys in the attic, you know, like dusting away up there. But they're still meaningful, you know, to someone. Yeah, that's how I tend to portray my current setting, where I get a lot of my inspiration right now in Vermont, in America. Hey, asante sana. Tutarudia vraiment miko vraiment très vraiment ça fait très plaisir, you know, vraiment asante sana. And tutarudia and jambo yako and tutaonana.